Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtathara Sadashish His Divine Grace Abhay Chanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan Ki Jai Jai Nitai Gopimanande Hari Hari Bol Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, Chapter 15, Description of the Kingdom of God. Text number 5. Namo Vijnana Viryaya. Namo Vijnana Viryaya. Maya Yedam Upesh Yushe. Maya Yedam Upeyushe. Grihita Gunabedhaya. Grihita Gunabedhaya. Namaste Vyaktayonaye. Namaste Vyaktayonaye. Namo Vijnana Viryaya. Maya Yedam Upeyushe. Grihita Gunabedhaya. Namaste Vyaktayonaye. Namo Vijnana Viryaya. Maya Yedam Upeyushe. Grihita Gunabedhaya. Namaste Vyaktayonaye. Namo Vijnana Viryaya. Maya Yedam Upeyushe. Grihita Gunabedhaya. Namaste Vyaktayonaye. Namo Vijnana Viryaya. Maya Yedam Upeyushe. Grihita Gunabedhaya. Namaste Vyaktayonaye. Prabhu, you'd like to recite? You'd like to recite? Okay. Right. Sorry, I had this idea that only two did. Sorry. Hare Krishna. Word for word. Namaha. Respectful obeisances. Vijnana Viryaya. O original source of strength and scientific knowledge. Mayaya. By the external energy. Idam. This body of Brahma. Upeyushe. Having obtained. Grihita. Accepting. Gunabedhaya. The differentiated mode of passion. Namate. Offering obeisances unto you. Avyakta. Unmanifested. Yonaye. Source. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Chanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. O original source of strength and scientific knowledge, all obeisances unto you. You have accepted the differentiated mode of passion from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. With the help of external energy, you are born of the unmanifested source. All obeisances unto you. We can recite together, O original source of strength, and scientific knowledge. All obeisances unto you. You have accepted the differentiated mode of passion from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. With the help of external energy, you are born of the unmanifested source. All obeisances unto you. Purport. The Vedas are the original scientific knowledge for all departments of understanding, and this knowledge of the Vedas was first impregnated into the heart of Brahma by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore Brahma is the original source of all scientific knowledge. He is born directly from the transcendental body of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who is never seen by any creature of this material universe, and therefore always remains unmanifested. Brahma is stated here to be born of the unmanifested. He is the incarnation of the mode of passion in material nature, which is the separated external energy of the Supreme Lord. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachalam bhangam lagayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramanandmadamam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we're continuing with the Deva's prayers to Lord Brahma, or rather their appeal to Lord Brahma, that what's happening, suddenly the universe has become very dark, we have seen no light. For us, because we have, in one sense, chronologically gone through this pastime, we understand that what's happened and what's the cause by the mercy of Srimad Bhagavatam and Srila Sukadeva Goswami. But here the Devas, you have to understand, they didn't have such knowledge. They are performing their prescribed duties, they are performing their administrative work in service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And suddenly, out of nowhere, darkness seems to emanate from all parts of the universe. In fact, it's mentioned here that by the force of the pregnancy, this is text 2, by the force of the pregnancy of deity, the light of the sun and moon was impaired in all the planets, and the demigods of various planets, being disturbed by that force, asked the creator of the universe, Brahma, what is the expansion of darkness in all directions? 2 points here. One is that you can understand how valuable light is in the function of one's prescribed duties. Because by having light and performing our prescribed function of duties, having light, it allows us to perform our duties so that we can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it's mentioned in the Vedas that tamasi ma jyotir gamaha, that get out of the darkness and enter into the light. It's one of the aphorisms in the Vedanta Sutra also. The idea is to go away from the lower modes of nature and to go towards the mode of transcendence, or Vishuddha Sattva. Now, that's one point. You can understand the demigods are known as Sura. The devotees of the Lord are known as Sura. It means that they are always absorbed, at least in the mode of goodness, and absorbed in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the very least, as we see in the case of the demigods. So they know how to serve the Lord, and they know their service is an administrative function of the universe. The thing about the demigods is that we often hear about how they slip, they trip, they fall, but we don't understand their qualifications to getting that service. Actually, their position is so great that if one of them fails their duty, sometimes we have service and you may have to come and serve the Lord, or you've committed to something, but then suddenly you say something happens and you call up whoever's in charge and say, sorry Prabhu Maharaji, I can't come. The demigods don't have that ability. They can't just let go of their service like that. For them, their service is very, very crucial. Because say, for example, Indra lapses a little bit in his service, then the function of rain in a particular part of the universe is impaired, and that will take everything out of balance. If the sun decides that, let me take a break for a couple of minutes, I want to take a little bit of water or something, that will disturb also the function of the universe. So everything it's mentioned is running under fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What does that mean? They don't stop their service for any moment, for their own sense gratification. They won't stop it. But we still see in the case, Krishna is so amazing that he's not dependent on the person to perform the service. If that person doesn't perform the service, he'll let them go and teach him a lesson. And he'll make sure that that service is performed by any other particular jiva that's qualified in that position. And we see that in the case of Nahusha, that at one particular point in time, it's mentioned in some places by different devotees, that when Indra had defeated Chitraketu Maharaj in the form of Vitrasura, then he went and performed tapasya and penance in the stem of a lotus where Lakshmi Devi was residing, just to be able to overcome the sins of killing a Brahmana. But then at that particular point in time, no one was sitting on the throne in heaven as Indra. And it was a great problem because they need someone to lead the demigods, they need someone to perform that function. So therefore, the demigods, they looked throughout the whole planetary system to find the most qualified person to sit on the throne. And it's mentioned that they saw Nahusha. Nahusha had all good qualities, he was very pious, humble. He wasn't completely qualified to attain Indra's position. But they said he's better than nothing. Blind uncle is better than no uncle. So they took him. And Nahusha agreed, I'm not qualified for this, how can I do this service? And it's mentioned he went, very humbly and, touched the throne and, paid obeisances to all the sages and took great blessings from everyone, sat on the throne, and he reigned as King Indra. For however many years, Purandara, the original Indra for that particular time period, was performing his tapasya. So then Nahusha was performing his duties. But unfortunately, because of a lack of qualification, a lack of self-control, pride entered into the system. Because Indra is served with great pomp and worship because of his position. He's able to enjoy such facilities like that. Which is quite contradictory if you think about it. He's given such a great position of devotional service. How can he enjoy sense gratification like that? It is the nature of Krishna to satisfy our desires in the material world. According to our, of course, our adhikar, according to our reciprocation with the Lord. There's terms and conditions apply to that statement. But the point here is that the nature of the demigods is that they're devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like Ishwara Prabhu was mentioning yesterday. When Narad Muni said, don't kill the sun in Kayadu, he's Mahabhagavad, they didn't say, are you sure, who do you think you are, you're a sage, how do you know that there's sun in there, you don't even know anything of these pregnancy details, you don't go through. No, they immediately understood Mahajan is saying, okay, they dropped their weapons and circumambulated Prahlad Maharaj. Out of fear, thinking, please forgive us for any consideration that we made, any offense. And then they left. They just accepted, took it and left. This is the nature of the demigods. They accept higher authority. They accept the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're completely sold out to His lotus feet. But now and then again, their desires for sense gratification overwhelm them. Just like the case of Indra, when he came and begged Krishna, please, this Bhaumasura, Narkasura has taken this. You know how embarrassing it is? Your mother wears earrings and someone steals your mother's earrings. How impotent you'll feel, right? That's how Indra was feeling. Like, I can't do anything about it. He's taken Varuna's umbrella. Varuna's probably sitting in his throne thinking, where'd my umbrella go? All of these things. And he took the pleasure resort of the demigods, Mani Parvata, and he took it away. The demigods couldn't do anything about it. So they felt that embarrassment. So he goes in before Krishna in that embarrassment, that humble mood, and begs. But then as soon as everything gets returned, and Krishna decides to take the Parijata tree with Satyabhama, immediately Indra flips. Therefore Sukadeva Goswami in disgust mentions about this nature of sense gratification, that it immediately makes you forget about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the nature of Sakama Bhakti. It's not really helpful for one's advancement in Krishna consciousness or one's relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is a very precarious path to follow. Because any moment you'll forget Krishna, the moment you forget Krishna, birth and death is waiting. So therefore the demigod's position is very, very unique in that sense, and very, very exalted compared to us fallen conditioned souls. But our position is greater than the demigods in the sense that the demigods look down. It's mentioned in the 5th canto. They are empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're the limbs of the Lord. That's how dear they are to the Lord. To the extent that they're able to see Vishnu during yajna. In past ages, before Kali Yuga, when yajna was performed, Vishnu appeared and the demigods were able to see them. In fact, it's mentioned the other way around. The kings that perform the sacrifice, if they perform the sacrifice and they have the good qualifications, they'll be able to see the demigods. They'll be even, if they're qualified, they'll even be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu himself. And the demigods, they themselves do not accept any sacrifice or the offerings unless it's prasadam of the Lord. So nowadays, of course, demigods won't accept the worship. It's not performed according to the proper vidhi or the regulative principles. And second, they're performed in separation or away or segregated or kept apart from worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so coming back to the point, Nahusha got proud. And when Nahusha got proud, he thought, Shachi Devi, the consort of the previous Indra, is mine. So then Nahusha then was thinking, I'm such a great king, how come I'm not getting this? I should also have consort, so bring that Sachi Devi like that. And Sachi Devi is thinking, what a crazy fellow, I'm not your consort, I'm the consort of the previous Indra who's now performing penances. So what should I do? So she went and asked the Saptarishis. And the Saptarishis told her, okay, don't worry, it's fine. You've heard of the word Vinashakale Vipirita Buddhi. Means at the point, at the point you're going to fall, the mind and the senses, your intelligence won't save you. Because of this pride, Nahusha's intelligence couldn't save him. So then, fast forward, what happened was that then the sages, they made it a situation where Nahusha was asking, where is my Sachi? Where is the Sachi Devi? And so then he tells, out of his pride, tell someone to bring them. Send, and the Saptarishis, they're coming forward and saying, no, she's not meant to be for your enjoyment. You're simply here temporarily to perform your function. You should calm yourself, O great king. And he said, no, you should go bring them. And so somehow or other, he arranges in such a way that he asks the Saptarishis to go and bring Sachi Devi on a palanquin, offending them. And the Saptarishis immediately curse him. That because of your insolence, because of your offensive behavior, because of your pride, we curse you that you'll fall from your position and you'll become a snake for many thousands and thousands of yugas. To the yugas. To the extent that you'll only be freed from this if someone is able to answer your questions. Then only you'll be able to be freed from this sinful, from this curse. So then it's mentioned that somehow or other they managed until Indra came back. But this Nahusha fell down. And this Nahusha actually is the father of King Yayati. Which is quite interesting. If you see that whole lineage, sometimes they slip, fall and trip, but they're in the lineage of great personalities. So then, anyway, side point, in Mahabharata, that's when Bhima comes and he runs through the forest and he happens to come across this snake. And the snake grabs him and he's not able to leave the snake. And he tells, my dear Bhima, the sages have given me the benediction that my foodstuff is anything that comes within my vicinity, so I will not let you go. And Bhima's thinking, how can this snake speak? Who are you? What are you doing? I am Nahusha. Actually, I'm one of your great forefathers, but that's not going to stop me from eating you. Unless you answer my questions. And so therefore Bhima's thinking like this, And he asked Bhima the question, and he's thinking, man, I wish Yudhishthira was stuck here instead of me. He'd probably answer all the questions. Eventually Yudhishthira Maharaj comes there and answers all the questions. And Nahush is freed, and then he goes to the heavenly planets. So the point here is that the position of the demigods, it seems to be so nice. It seems to be so grandeur, full of enjoyment, full of grandiose enjoyment, full of all types of pleasures that we seek. But unfortunately, their position is also like ours. Like it's mentioned, Jivana Talamala, Kamala Jalamala, Jivana Talamala. It's like a drop of water on the leaf of a lotus, or a petal of a lotus. It's very, very unsteady, very, very insecure. So the demigods, seeing us here in Martya Loka, specifically in Bharatvarsha, they are thinking, what a wonderful place to stay. What a wonderful opportunity it is. Because even if we perform devotional service up here, there's every chance of us being sidetracked by the sense gratification up here. But you see the humans down here in Martya Loka, their opportunity to finish off their life is there. Because their karma is being, completely wiped out. Opportunity for karma to come to develop is there, or to get good karma, but they can immediately finish off their existence in material world and go home back to Godhead. How fortunate it is. We wish to also be in that position. So if you read that section, it's a very nice section. The demigods are expressing their disdain for having obtained their planetary system and their eagerness to accept the position in the material world. And sometimes, as devotees, we think that, it's okay, if I don't get... because Prabhupada says, some devotee quotes that Prabhupada said that, all of my devotees, some of them will end up going into the heavenly planets after this life. Yeah, it's okay, no problem, right? Heavenly planets full of enjoyment. And then after that, Shuchinam Shimatam Gehe Yoga Brashta Vijayate. But actually, it's a very precarious situation. It's like, you take the ticket back home, back to Godhead. But when you actually go back home, back to Godhead, that's up to you. You fly your own plane. But if you want detour here and there, you don't know how many lifetimes it's going to take. Bahunam janma namante. Until you go home back to Godhead. So it's a very interesting thing. Bhagavatam is laying it out bare. Demigods are unhappy here. You think they're enjoying happily, right? Look, 2 demons are causing so much problem for them. They're in so much stress, so much anxiety. So therefore, Krishna mentions that, from all the way down to the lower planetary system, Patal, up to Brahma's Loka, there's full of misery, full of difficulty. What's the point? Even Narad Muni tells Vyasadeva in the beginning of Bhagavatam that an intelligent person understands all the way from the lower planetary system to the upper planetary system, distress comes of its own accord. So happiness will also come of its own accord. An intelligent person is not disturbed and doesn't endeavor for happiness in that way. So, that's one point here. Sorry. That's text number 2. The next point is that they ask Brahma, what is the expansion of darkness in all directions? So the demigods in these sections, we can understand their culture. It's not they just go, hey Brahma, what's up? What's the expansion of darkness in the directions happening? It's nothing like that. They don't just randomly go up to Brahma. They recognize his position. His position in this universe, he is the most closest to Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. For all conditioned souls in this material universe, he is the closest they can come to Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. Because he is born from Garbhodakashaya Vishnu himself. It's mentioned in this verse today. Avyakta yonaye. Prabhupada explains in the purport that Garbhodakashaya Vishnu is unmanifested. Very interesting point to note is that manifested and unmanifested doesn't mean in reference to existence. It's in reference in vision. When something is manifested to our vision, we can see it. When it's unmanifested, we can't see it. It's not that when we see it, it exists. When we don't see it, it doesn't exist. And this is the greatest fault of current material society. That we are so much engaged in lusty affairs, we're just so absorbed in accepting whatever the sense gives us. Informations and the knowledge the senses give us. That if anyone says anything other than what we can see, we don't accept it. That's how gross, how fallen we've become. That unless you can see it, we won't accept it. So, Avyakta means that it's unmanifested, it's not within the vision. Just like the sun. When it's night time, does that mean the sun doesn't exist? No, the sun is just on the other side of the globe, other side of the Bhumandala. And we are just in the darkness, the shadow. And then it'll come back around again during sunrise. It manifests itself. So in the same way, Prabhupada in another instance explains, just like the sun rises and sets, and the sun has its different trajectories going all the way from one meridian to the other, one section to the all the way to the center, the full noon, and then all the way to the end. In the same way, Krishna performs his pastimes in different universes. In one place he's Bal Gopal, in another place he's in Dwarka, in another place he's as the pastime goes, he's in Kurukshetra. And just because he's not within our vision doesn't mean Krishna doesn't exist. He's performing pastimes somewhere else. As Krishna left the world, Bhagavatam explains, as he left, he took with him knowledge, religion and everything else, and the world was full of darkness. But this Bhagavatam has arisen to give light to all fallen conditioned souls, to be able to go back to Godhead. So that's you can understand avyakta, very important point, because if you don't understand this vyakta, avyakta, you can immediately misinterpret it. That vyakta means Krishna has come in form, avyakta means Krishna has gone back to formlessness. This is the wrong interpretation. And this is what Prabhupada emphasizes again and again and again. This impersonalism to the extent of Mayavadi tendency, that Krishna's form is Maya, that you should be careful of. That we should be very careful of. Because Mahaprabhu says, if we simply hear a little bit of Mayavad philosophy, we're lost. We're lost means we're gone. You go into the sea with improper resources. You go with a small boat with one little sail, and the wind comes. Cyclone comes. You're gone. That's Mayavad philosophy. Just little bit of Mayavad philosophy, you're gone. So Prabhupada, if we are very lucky, because in Kali Yuga that's our default position, unfortunately. But by constantly immersing ourselves in reading Srimad Bhagavatam, like Viraj Krishna Prabhu said, we should, what did he say? What's the words he used? We should just keep our heads, we should bury our heads. Yeah, we should bury our heads in Srimad Bhagavatam. You know what it means to bury your head in Bhagavatam? There's an animal known as an ostrich, right? And whenever there's danger, what the ostrich does, it doesn't run away. It buries its head in the sand, thinking the danger will go. My head is in the sand, now there's no more danger. At least we should be like that. If we can't solve the problem, we should bury our head in Srimad Bhagavatam. The problem will solve itself. We'll hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So we should bury our head in Srimad Bhagavatam. And that will solve all our problems. And specifically this Mayavadi tendency, this understanding that Krishna, his form, the Archa Vigraha is not Krishna. All of these doubts we hold very dearly to our heart. Prabhupada will pull them out and destroy them. One devotee had written a letter to Prabhupada and told Prabhupada that Prabhupada actually, you don't read what the devotee says, only what Prabhupada replies. And Prabhupada's replying that you have said that you are struggling in material existence, very difficult to perform, I'm paraphrasing, perform Krishna consciousness. Therefore I am saying, if you just simply take my instructions and follow them, I will simply one kick away, destroy this Maya. So Prabhupada was very emphatically telling this devotee that I can remove it, you just don't be attached. I remember when I came to Krishna consciousness, there was this one interesting story that I heard. That one disciple had gone to his spiritual master and he told Guru Maharaj, you're giving me all of these instructions, I understand, but it's just so difficult to let go of Maya, so difficult to let go of sense gratification. It's just too difficult. I don't know what to do, how to do. Can you instruct me, please? And the spiritual master just simply smiled at his disciple and said, you come back tomorrow. And so the disciple was thinking, okay, all right, I'll come back tomorrow. And when he came back tomorrow, the next day, he saw his spiritual master hugging a tree. And you know what the spiritual master was saying? He was holding the tree and he was saying, let go, let go, let go. So he taught his disciple like that. That his disciple is saying, Maya is so strong, it's very difficult to overcome, you're giving instruction. But so his spiritual master is saying, you let go. First let go, then everything else I can take care of. So I was thinking, that was such a powerful point. how much are we still holding on? Still performing devotional, in the name of devotional service, how much are we still holding on? And here we are sometimes criticizing the demigods for doing the same thing. That their position is to serve Krishna, their very exalted position, they slip here and there. But we judge them, like Indra, we judge him. He made so many mistakes, lusty fellow, doesn't deserve to be in his position. But when you really look inside, how much are we still holding on to material existence? How much are we still holding on? But our greatest fortune is that Srila Prabhupada is here to give us his association. The demigods don't have such facility. They have to come and they have to take book from our Sankirtan devotees to be able to read Prabhupada's purports. So that's our greatest fortune. And here Srila Prabhupada is explaining. I'll go through today's verse in a bit more detail now. Because the purport is just Prabhupada explaining word for word in more detail. So here the demigods are now glorifying Lord Brahma. Here one thing we need to understand, this is the same situation as in, I think this fourth canto. Fourth canto is the great Rudragit, the Prachetas, yeah. There you'll see also a very similar situation where Lord Shiva is worshipped as if he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because, as Prabhupada says here, because Brahma is almost on equal footing with the personality of Godhead, he's addressed here as God of the demigods, and because, and then Prabhupada explains, he is the secondary creator, he's addressed as a sustainer of the universe. But actually we know who the real sustainer is. Janmadi yasya yataha. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. That we know Vasudeva is actually the original sustainer. But he's giving the credit to Lord Brahma. Because of our frame of reference, our vision is just within this, thankfully to Srimad Bhagavatam's mercy, within this universe. Before that it was just simply limited to, our little home or our country or something. But, it's expanded a bit more thanks to the mercy of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is now within the universe that we only see Brahma within, because Garbhadakashaya Vishnu is unmanifest. We can't see him. Garbhadakashaya Vishnu, who is never seen by any creature of this material universe. But Lord Brahma is born from him. Can you imagine that? You're born from Garbhadakashaya Vishnu, but you can't see him? Can you imagine? You take birth within material existence, and you can't even see your parents. You can't see anything around you. It's a very precarious situation. But Brahma was born like that. So, Avyakta Yoniye, this is Lord Brahma. Vijnana Viryaya, the original source of strength and scientific knowledge. Brahma, if he wasn't a devotee, he'd be feeling, wow, yeah, bring it on, lay it on me. You guys are speaking nectar, real words of praise. I am all of these things. In fact, at one particular important point in time, we were also in that position. we messed up, and now we're stuck down here. So, Brahma, our Lord Brahma is a devotee, and he's accepting all of these prayers on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the extent that he will very soon explain to the demigods what the kingdom of God is like. So, Lord Brahma takes the credit and offers it. And we heard that yesterday. That the pleasure is taken in taking the credit and giving it to our spiritual master. The pleasure is not in enjoying the credit. Because what happens is that if you enjoy the credit, then the criticism will also have to come. You have to take that as well. That's very distasteful. I think I was explaining before. Once, I was in the car park with one other devotee. We were washing the cars. And one devotee suddenly came up and they told me that, Prabhuji, the Sunday feast class you gave a couple of weeks ago, I can't accept what you were saying there. I was like, what? I gave Sunday feast class? And they didn't give me time to explain. They started saying, what you said here was wrong, and I am, you said all professors are nonsense, but I'm also a professor, it's not that all the time we're all nonsense. And they went on, and I was like, oh my God, what did I say? I don't remember this class, I don't remember saying anything. I said, yes, I'm sorry, Hare Krishna, yeah, I'll thank you for your feedback, I'll make sure that I don't make such blanket statements. And I was so bewildered, I don't even know what was happening, everything. I said, yeah, sorry, thank you, Hare Krishna. And then the devotee then immediately realized, sorry Prabhu, I didn't mean to really lay it on you, but yeah, if you could just, yeah, no problem, sorry, Hare Krishna. I was like, oh wow, I messed up. And I was like, did I even give that class? And then I was looking, and the other devotee was smiling at me. I was like, Prabhu, why are you smiling? And then started laughing at me. I was like, why? Prabhu, I was the one who gave that class. I was like, rascal. Made me go through everything and then... So the point here is that if we're eager for praise, we have to be ready for criticism. Once Rajanath Prabhu, I'll never forget this example. Rajanath Prabhu was giving class and he was saying, if you're eager for praise, you should be ready for criticism at the worst possible time. That's how it will come. If you take the praise or the credit that belongs to someone else, be ready to accept the criticism that comes of its own accord. Right? He was saying, he was saying after this whole incident, he was saying maybe I had taken some credit somewhere where it wasn't due. But he was saying once he was standing here taking darshan of the Lord, and one devotee just suddenly came and started criticizing, Prabhu, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that. And he was thinking, Prabhu, I'm just taking darshan of the Lord, what did I do wrong? So like that, you should be ready. Happiness comes of its own accord, and those who accept that happiness, distress will also come of its own accord. So in the same way here, Brahma is very intelligent. He won't accept these prayers. He'll offer it. He'll take it. I don't want it. Radhanath Maharaj says, actually we were in one Vyas Puja. It's observed by the devotees here in Sydney. And one of the devotees was explaining that Maharaj's mood, his mood was that, when credit came, he was like, it's like hot coal. Just give it. Don't accept it. Take it. I don't want anything to... I think even one devotee, I think Bhavaprabhu you were mentioning in class, that, when Maharaj... when credit comes, immediately give. You should accept it like hot coal and just immediately give it to the spiritual master. They deserve it, not me. So Brahma's very intelligent in that sense. So he is the source of strength and scientific knowledge. He's known as the Adi Kavaye. He's the original poet, Prabhupada says, of this universe. In other words, Brahma is known as the original engineer, the primeval engineer of this universe, because Krishna gave him all the resources, and Lord Brahma was the one who worked with everything. They say engineering is a type of science, but it's reverse. In other words, science in one sense, it's applied science. What happens is that there's one type of engineering. You have resources and you make a solution out of them. Or you wait for the problem to come and then make the solution out of that. You reverse engineer. Okay, the problem is here, the solution should be like this, and you reverse engineer to solve the problem. So Brahma was able to do both, There's living entities in this universe that want to enjoy their senses. And Brahma was given the intelligence that he was able to know the intention of those living entities, and he created the bodies that facilitated that desire. Because all the living entities were dormant within Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and Brahma's intelligence, or Brahma was given intelligence to create life forms or bodies or species so that these living entities can, vent out their desires, somehow or other satisfy their desires. So that's why you see in the progressive creation of the universe all these different types of living entities. Because Brahma's thinking, okay, I created this, but then there's that type of living entity, that Jiva who wants to enjoy like that. Okay, I have to create that, I have to create this, I have to create that. To the extent that Lord Brahma, he thinks, I'm not going to be able to do it, I need help. I can create the basic things, the blueprint, but I need someone to propagate the whole thing. So if you see Kasyap's situation, Kasyap's wives, they propagate all the other living entities, if you have a look. He has one wife that gives birth to all the snakes and serpents, another wife that gives birth to all the birds and so on and so forth, all of these demigods, demons. And Lord Brahma's like, yeah, good. Someone's there to do my service, to help me in my service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Which is why earlier in this canto, he was very pleased with Swayambhuv Manu. Because no one was ready, at that time no one was ready to help. Lord Shiva was ready to help, but he was causing the opposite, the destruction. So he said, my dear son, go meditate. The four Kumars said, no, we won't do, because we want to worship the Supreme Personality, Godhead. Okay. So therefore Brahma was very pleased with Swayambhuv Manu. Okay, so when we hear about him knowing the intentions, another situation, Maya, Yamaraj, they also know the intentions or the desires or the inner thoughts of the living entities, because Krishna's invested the potency for them. That's why Maya is able to press the right button and make you immediately shake. Even the greatest personality, Vishwamitra Muni, was so powerful in his austerities, and all he needed was one Menaka, one Ramba, one Shashanku, Trishanku, that's all it required. One Vashishta, that's all it required for Maya to poke Vishwamitra Muni to this extent that he lost all his potencies. First time he lost it to lust. Second time he lost it to anger. Third time he lost it to pride. Because this Trishanku came, he's a mlecha, because he was originally a good king. And he told the sons, he told Vashishta, I want to be elevated to the heavenly planets right now. And he said, you don't have the qualification. No, you perform the yagya and give me the qualifications. He said, no, I'm not going to do such a thing. So he went behind Vashishta's back and went and talked to his sons. And told Vashishta's sons, your father's important, he can't do these things. You guys are qualified. In the name of glorifying them and pumping them up, he offended their father. And they're Brahmanas, they're not affected by this mode of passion. They immediately picked it out and they cursed him. Because you're offending the Brahmanas, you'll become a mlecha. So immediately, he lost all bodily luster, his gold turned into iron and other metal, and there he was, a low-class living entity. And so he was roaming around. He went back to his kingdom, no one accepted him. So he roamed around, he didn't know what to do, he came across Vishwamitra. He told Vishwamitra, I want you to elevate me to the heavenly planets. And he said, don't disturb me, you're disqualified, I'm doing my tapasya. And then he knew, he said, alright, even Vashishta couldn't do it. And what did Vishwamitra say? Vashishta couldn't do it, I can do it. I am better than Vashishta. Maya poked that button. Because he had already gone through this falling to lust and anger. To the extent it's mentioned that he sends Trishanku up with his swaha, with his yagya performance, by his potency. And as Trishanku is going up, Indra, all the demigods are running to Indra. Indra, one unqualified person is coming. Because what happens if an unqualified person comes, he'll destroy culture. He'll destroy the peace. He'll destroy the balance or the stability of that situation because he's not trained or she's not trained. But this Trishanku is coming. So Indra saw him and threw his thunderbolt on him. It hit his head and he fell down back to earth. And then Vishwamitra Muni was thinking, no, who does Indra dare think he is? So again he offered and he sent Trishanku up. And when Trishanku went up, again Indra sent him down. He went up, Indra sent him down. He went up, Indra sent him down. At that end, by the time Trishanku came, he was like completely, burnt, charred. Please, I don't want to go to heavenly planets. Leave me alone. I've had enough. But then still, no, I'll send you up. This time I won't send you up. I'll use my potencies and I'll create heavenly system. So he creates that. But it goes out of whack until he calls Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu comes and saves the situation. So Maya knows she's able to poke the right buttons. So in that sense, Lord Brahma understands the intentions because he's endowed with it by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One last point before we end the class. The next qualification or glorification of Lord Brahma by the demigods is that you've accepted the differentiated mode of passion. So when we say Lord Brahma is Guna Avatar, he's been given that service by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's not affected by the modes of passion. All obeisances unto you. So this is the beginning. They glorify Lord Brahma, put forward their situation, and ask Lord Brahma for solution. This is how, a very general way we offer prayers to Krishna. We don't just simply come and demand, hey, I want this, I want that. You come before the Lord, offer prayers to the Lord, glorify the Lord, and then reveal your heart to the Lord. It's a very systematic or very cultured way of approaching someone senior or superior. So we're learning that from Srimad Bhagavatam also. So I'll end here. I'll take one or two questions, Prabhu. I have to end. Yeah.
In the third shloka, it's actually mentioned that because of the influence of time, cannot touch Brahma. And Prabhupada mentions cannot touch higher personalities like Brahma and other demigods. And you mentioned that I think it includes Yamaraj and Nayati. So my question is, if the influence of time cannot touch Brahma, for example, we heard that he actually passes the end of his 100 years, and also he is away only for 12 hours. So we are actually talking in terms of time. So how is that?
He's unaffected by the nature of time. Two things. First thing is, To know the intentions and to be Trikala Jnana is slightly different. Trikala Jnana means no past, present, future. To know the intentions of living entities doesn't necessarily refer to Trikala Jnana. They're given as separate things here. Bhutanam asi bhava vid, to know the bhava of the living entities, and to know the future. It's slightly different. But Brahma knows both.
So does it mean that he actually has got a close association with the super soul?
Correct. That's how Yamaraj works, and that's how Mayadevi works. They're empowered to be able to see like that. And second, in relationship to your time, if you see the verse, Ayur Hariti Vai Pumsam, and read the purport, Prabhupada talks about how devotees are not affected by time. Time deteriorates its course of deterioration. It takes away your life energy. But for a devotee, they're able to use time in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're not affected by such deteriorating energy. The body is, but after death, they'll just continue their service somewhere else. For the materialist, everything finishes at death. So for Brahma, he takes rest as service. For Brahma, at the end of his life, he'll go back home, back to Godhead. He'll continue his service. So he's not affected by time in that sense. Ayur Hariti Vaipumsam. You should read. Okay.
And the demigods, all the demigods reside in the Swargaloka, and they manage the affairs of all the working planets. On this last thing.
Yes. Yes, Prabhupada says 33 crore. 330 million demigods do that. And it's mentioned that some of them are lokapalas. That means they have a whole planet of demigods under them. Like Indra, for example. Chandra, Vayu, not sure about Vayu, but whoever's lokapala, yeah, they have a whole planet full of demigods under them. They manage everything, yeah. Yes. Yeah, sometimes you hear that, the stories of how, they went to visit Lord Vishnu somewhere, and all the demigods went for office meeting. So yeah, sometimes they also go office meeting. It's mentioned on the top of Sumeru mountain, although they have their own lokas, they have residence on top of that. There are 8 residences there. In the center, Lord Brahma's residence is there. So sometimes they come down to Sumeru mountain and have conference or do their service there as well. Work from home. Yeah? Okay, end class here. Thank you for listening. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.